Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Relatable Radio Hour with me, Dr. Green. Thank you so very much for joining. Tonight, we have a great guest and a great topic, and I'll be introducing him in just a minute. But something that we've been doing on this show, which I'm really proud about, is just bringing people to this platform who, have been able to break through different barriers and different career paths, and in particular, things that people don't really even think of because there are so many ways to just be immersed in different opportunities in this world, so many different career opportunities. So we're going to have a great discussion with someone who I feel like has just really been doing that for quite some time. I'm bringing you all another frat brother of mine. I'm going to continue to roll them in because the brothers of Alpha Phi Alpha are doing some incredible things, and this brother is doing the same thing. I would like to introduce to you all my good frat brother, Derrick Robinson, who is a photojournalist for WLS-TV ABC 7 in Chicago. How are you
That's cool.
doing, Brother Robinson?
How you doing, Fred? I'm doing well. I'm
Good,
doing
good,
well.
good,
Doing well
good,
today.
good. So very glad to have you on today. I've been following you a lot, seeing what you've been doing, what you've been up to. You've been in the media space for quite some time, but I would love for you just to introduce yourself to the audience and just kind of tell them a little bit about yourself and what brought you here today.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Derrick Robinson. I am the father of three children. They're not exactly children anymore. Two grown sons and a daughter in college. Uh,
Right.
I I am a widower, but God has blessed me to uh, find a great woman, and I will be getting married in September.
That's
Just tell you a
awesome.
little bit about me. I grew up on the west side of Chicago in an area called North Lawndale. And to give perspective, if you've ever seen a TV show on Showtime called Shameless, uh,
Mm.
it's based on a family called the Gallaghers. Where the house was situated, I grew up the very next block up. So that gives you a picture of where I grew up. Um, One thing I was interested in at an early age was just news in general, not just TV news, but news in general. I'm 54 years old, so we didn't have many ways to get our news as we do now. It was either newspaper, TV, or radio. And I was a little strange, man, because when my parents would, give me my allowance, I'd go get my candy, but I would also get a Chicago Sun-Times and read it back and forth. So around there was a period in Chicago from 1983 to about 87, very interesting period, especially for blacks in Chicago. It started with the election of our first black mayor. Um, then it started with a young lady who came from Nashville and just took the city by storm called Oprah Winfrey.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
the arrival of a certain basketball player, a rookie named Michael Jordan. Um, the emergence of the '85 Bears, which are still considered one of the greatest football teams of all time. And it coincided with the death of our first black mayor in '87. But there was one story in that time period that really hit me and made me say, I want to do this. 1984, Simeon High School on the South Side had a basketball player called Ben Wilson. He was the number one basketball player in the nation at the time. Great, great basketball player. Probably could have went pro after high school. Got into an altercation, shot him, and killed him. And I just remember the media coverage and how it made national news to the point where years later, I had some fraternity brothers in Alabama tell me, hey man, it was a big story down here. So just watching the coverage just pulled me in. I said, I want to do this. And just didn't know how. So I happened to go to Grambling State University. Still didn't have I didn't know what I wanted to major in. I know I wanted to do TV, but I'm like, do I really want to do this? I don't know how to go about it. and bumped into a young man, Greg Gibson from St. Louis, who just started working at the TV department. I didn't even know the school had a TV department. He pulled me in, and then I just immersed myself and got deeper and deeper every year. Um, I had an excellent supervisor by the name of Mr. James Penny. May he rest in. Um, I mean, he really hit home the seriousness of how I would fit in a broadcast news environment. You know, Derrick, you're at this HBCU now, and you're all together. Black students together. But this is the last setting you will ever see like this when you go out in the real world. So we really got real world experience. We did our own newscasts. We did TV shows. We even traveled with the football team to cover games. So there were times where we got on the plane and flew with the football team. And after college, came home for about 2 months. It was a little hard, but I had interviewed in at an ABC affiliate in Tyler, Texas, and they called and said, "Hey, we got a part-time gig if you want to come down here." And I said, "Man, I got to do something, man." So I went down there, and it was rough in the beginning. It was rough. I felt out of place. I wasn't getting like the treatment that others were getting, but I still met good people down there who pulled me to the side and brought me along. Um, Left there, came back to Chicago and worked at a 24-hour news operation here, cable news operation. It was called CLTV. And that's when I really just started going at it, started learning my way around Chicago again and just the ins and outs of Chicago, from sports to City Hall to whatever. And worked there for 4 years, went to work at the Chicago Tribune in their media department for 2 years, and got blessed to go over to ABC. And there I've been for the entire
That
time.
that is that's quite a trajectory. I
Yes.
mean, that's a lot just wrapped up into that. And of course, I'm gonna go back and kind of ask some questions about what you just
Mm-hmm.
kind of shared with us.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned how you just always have been immersed in media and just wanting to be in that world. Uh, what made you choose the college that you chose to go towards this? Because I'm imagining at that time, with it being kind of mass communications or broadcast journalism, everybody had a different, way of kind of, saying what the major or the field was. But
Right.
what drew you to your college, and what are some things that you really? Well, I'll stop there first.
Well,
What made you choose the college that you
it,
chose?
it was a true blessing from God, and truthfully, nothing had to do with TV. I just knew I
Okay.
wanted to go to a HBCU, and my family in Mississippi, they're all Corn alumni and uh,
Hmm.
Jackson State alumni. And I actually was originally going to go to Jackson State. My aunt, who is an
Oh wow.
Alcorn alumni, said, "Why don't you look at Grambling?" And sure enough, I started to look at Grambling. I'm like, man, I'm really liking this school. And I was amazed that at the time they had one of the like all-time leading coaches, Eddie Robinson. And I remember
Hmm.
I was at the scholarship luncheon, and it was a group of white businessmen there. And they asked me what school I was going to go to. And I told them Grambling State. And they looked at each other. I said, these guys don't know what I'm talking about. And so the other guy looked at his friend and said, "Hey man, that's your guy, Coach Eddie Robinson, man." And they started throwing out
Mm.
stats and everything. I'm like, they know about Grambling. So I said, I gotta go down here. I have to go down, to school. One more thing. I actually went to a Catholic school in high school. So I had a priest who was my counselor. And I nailed it down to Grambling and Western Illinois. And he called me to the office, told me, yeah, you did good on your ACT, so have you made your choice? I said it's between Grambling and Western Illinois. So this Irish Catholic priest, I'm waiting on him to say, yeah, go to Western. He said, man, if it was me, I'd go to Grambling. I said, what did you just say? and
Wow.
so, and so, man, he broke it down like everything great about Grambling. I said, I gotta go. So I went down there, but again, I didn't go down there in the hopes of studying mass communications. I was undecided when I went. you know. So that's how it came about.
So how long? Well, first off, yeah, I would be shocked that the priest recommended Grambling too, because yeah, you would definitely think like, oh, okay, you want to go to Western.
Right, right,
Um,
right,
and you decided to kind of give it a chance. What was it
right,
about? Because I mean, I can imagine as an undecided student, when you're really trying to figure things out, you're going to college, you're not really certain about a lot of stuff. You're just wanting to
right,
kind of be immersed to all that you possibly can. uh,
right.
what was it about that broadcasting field that drew you to it? Like, what made you decide that that was the fit for you?
Are you saying that Grambling or just in general?
Yeah, Grambling, because you said you were undecided, right?
Right, right. Like I said, I was undecided, but I know I was always interested in doing
Exactly.
broadcasting. I met a young man. He was actually a year older than me, named Greg Gibson from St. Louis. He's still in the business as well. We just started talking one day, and I told him what I was interested in. He said, "Well, man, that's my major. I'm at the TV center. Come on
Cool.
over and see it." So I went over there and made connections with my supervisors, and I mean, they were the coolest supervisors. I mean, cool. They were the coolest. You could go talk to them anytime, sit down, and just just break bread with them. And I knew just by how can I put it? Just by going over there and watching the older guys, and seeing what they were doing, I'm like, man, I really could get into it. But I'm gonna tell you a funny story. What really kind of drew me into it when we started traveling for football games, and
Hmm.
you kind of that broke college student and all that. You getting your hotels paid for. You going to Red Lobster to eat back there. Back then, Red Lobster was a big deal. And
Right, it was.
they're paying for everything. I'm like, man, I'm starting to like this. But what really drew me was just telling stories on campus, being able to tell the students stories and just covering certain sporting events and it gave you a sense of pride. Like, man, what I'm even though we were in a small area and maybe about 40,000 people will probably see what I put on in the community. Pretty
Just
much it.
wow. That's pretty cool. That is
Right.
pretty cool. Did you find yourself kind of falling into that space pretty easily? Because I know
Oh
there's a lot
yes,
of training that goes into it.
it was a lot
Lots
of
behind the
training.
scenes.
It's a lot of training, and tell you the truth, you never stop learning. Technology
Hmm.
changes so much, you never stop learning. You never
Hmm.
stop learning. In life, you never stop learning. But I can tell you in the broadcast industry, you never stop learning. But it just it felt natural,
Mm.
and I just gravitated to the editing and the shooting, and there were days like I would have class, get out of class by noon. I wouldn't leave that TV center until man 11, 12 o'clock at night. And
Wow.
one part was the camaraderie we had, and it's kind of funny, man. You go to some schools, if you worked in the TV department, you probably considered kind of nerdy and all that. We were considered like the cool kids. Everybody
The
used to come
cool
over.
kids.
Yeah, they wanted to come over and hang with us.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
I mean, it was a good, diverse group of students, and they all had their own sense of how news should be. They all had bright ideas, their own originality, and we bumped heads at times, but always came back together, and it was much love, much respect.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's great. What I'm also hearing, Brother Robinson, is just that you really just kind of fell into your purpose.
Yes.
And when I mean, we always say this, when you're having fun doing what you do, it's not considered a job. It's not really considered work.
Right.
So you sounds like you found that out like pretty early in your career, just in college alone.
And,
So
and I think God just led me in that direction. 'Cause I have so
mhm.
many friends who majored in what they thought they were going to, who are not doing it now. And I hear it so much, like, man, you're still in your major, you're still doing it. But it feels like just God just watched over me and kept me the whole time I've been in this business.
That's
Led me.
amazing.
It just led me.
That's yeah.
Mhm.
And he does that whenever he knows exactly what he wants
Right,
for us to do. And it sounds like you hit the ground running doing it, and you just
right,
follow. You were obedient. You were
right.
obedient to what he wanted you to do, and
Exactly.
used you in the capacity he wanted to use you.
Yeah.
So I think you mentioned that while you were in college,
Mm.
you connected with a lot of people. You traveled with the football team. Was this also a time when you were working part time at a station, or were you just kind of working solely on the college campus?
Solely on the college campus,
Okay.
class, and then, like I said, I would spend hours on top of hours, and then we would be in there on Saturdays, we'd be in there on Sundays. It was just our second home. It was
Hmm.
our second home. Because we how can we put it? We were consistently learning. We had a hunger that we knew eventually we were going to graduate, and we wanted to go out there and just kick butt. And uh, we just it's hard to say, but we just had the determination. That determination that drove us,
Hmm.
and I don't think major than anything else, I would have had that determination. I mean, my frat brothers tell me, used to get on me all the time. Uh, uh, what you doing tonight? I'll be at the TV center. Oh man, yeah, come on, man, So
Uh-huh.
right,
But I mean, you were invested. That's what you wanted
right,
to do, and you liked it. You loved it. So I
yes,
get it.
yes,
So you felt pretty prepared, gaining the experience at Grambling. You had, fellow colleagues kind of doing the same thing. You eventually get to that graduation point. You've learned a lot. You've, been exposed to a lot at this point. Kind of walk us through that very first experience, and also keeping in mind what someone told you about. This is cool. I mean, being around all black students,
right,
or being in
right,
that black environment. It's a great experience. But this is going to be the last time. I think that's how you framed it. He said it was going to be your last time experiencing this.
right,
So at this point, you're kind of getting immersed into that world that's like, bigger than what college was.
right.
Kind of talk to us about how it was even being a black man, in this field, because um, at that time, I don't think there were nearly as many people in this field as it is now. But
Mm-hmm.
maybe, you can kind of walk us through how that experience was for you.
I could tell you on a personal level, that was one of the most difficult times of my life because I graduated in December of 1992. Late August, the August before, a couple of months before, I lost my father, who was like my
Mm.
best friend. So I had to go through that whole semester, but like I said, I had to keep it going. I had to keep it going. I knew what I wanted when I graduated. So when I graduated, I was offered a job part time in Tyler, Texas, but I was more worried about my mother. So I came home for a couple of months, and pretty much my mother said, I'm going to be okay. You do what you have to do." And so I got a call from the gentleman, Bob Lovelady. I said, "I still have this job down here if you want it." I said, "I have to go." So I made my way down there. It was a different feel. Now I'm not a stranger to the South at all. I grew up a Chicagoan, but both of my parents are
Right.
from Mississippi. I went to school in Louisiana, so I was entrenched in Southern ways, but uh, East Texas was a little different. It was
Mhm.
definitely different. So it was very conservative. Uh, I felt, I honestly felt we didn't have a voice down there as African Americans. I didn't see any blatant racism or anything vile or nasty. But when I got to the station, people were cordial to me, but I felt the hand wasn't reached out like it was for other younger people coming in there.
Mhm.
So basically, I decided I want a social life. I was going to breathe, drink, eat, broadcast TV. So my days off, I would go up there and just sit and watch newscasts or follow some of the photographers and and try to learn all I could. And there was one sports guy in particular. His name was Blake Olson. He just gravitated to me, saying, "Why don't you start rolling with me?" So this was around the time that the Dallas Cowboys were on their way to the Super Bowl. That was the
Hmm.
Emmitt Smith, Troy Aikman, Michael Irvin Cowboys, and we used to go cover him. And he had enough faith in me to let me shoot it for him. And I was like, "Wow, I'm in a Cowboys locker room, and I'm doing this." And I will always remember him for that. So, I learned what I learned down there, but I wanted to come back and make it happen. And so that's when I applied for a couple of jobs up here. Oh, I had actually came up for my girlfriend at the time, later my wife. Her sister was getting married, so I came up here on vacation. And as we were about to take my son to the zoo, uh, got a phone call to come in for an interview uh, uh, at the cable news place. And I went to the interview that following Monday. It went very well. The lady, Dana McDaniel, she showed me around the newsroom and everything. She said, "Okay, I have a lot of applicants. Give me till Friday, and I'll let you know." She called me the very next day and offered me the job. I said, "I have to come back up here. I have to come back up here." So I came back up here, and that's when my Chicago journey started.
So the Tyler, Texas experience wasn't necessarily that long, but you definitely got a lot of experience
I
while you
got
were
a
there.
lot of experience in Thailand, and even though I had some issues, I'm forever grateful for the opportunity they gave me. They didn't have to give it to me, so I'm
Right.
forever grateful for that. But it
Hmm.
wasn't that long, but I learned a lot, and it showed when I came back up to Chicago because the cable news station where I worked, they were also bringing in a lot of uh, young people, a lot fresh out of
Hmm.
college. And some of them had that Chicago cockiness.
Hmm.
I knew to come up here, keep it low key, just let my work show. And they were very impressed. Let me just say that. I was kind
Hmm.
of quiet, but when it was time to do the job, boom, 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 I knocked it out. You know, so I'm thankful for Tyler. It helped me. It helped get me started.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm probably taking you down memory lane by
Mm-hmm.
asking you this, but what do you think you keep in your back pocket from that time in Tyler, Texas, that you still kind of keep pretty prevalent in your brain right now?
There's a verse in the Bible, this, and I'm hoping I'm saying it right or I'm saying it closely. Do not despise small beginnings. And I want to tell that to any young person. Please do not despise any small beginning. It may look like nothing is ever, how can I put it? I'm trying to say it the right way. Basically, just never think it's too small or it's not worth your time. You
Mhm.
never know what seeds you are planting along the way. Because had I
Yeah,
skipped that job, no telling where I would be right now.
that's so true.
So nothing is ever too small. Never look at it that way. You stay
Mhm.
grateful every opportunity you get.
Yeah, that's so true. That is so true. So you're in Chicago at this point on your journey. Um, I am curious when you looked around and you were in this new station. Were you still the only black photojournalist at this time, or had it kind of increased from
Not a,
when you had?
not, oh no, not at all, not at all. And let me backtrack for a minute. I never was a photojournalist in Tyler full time. They allowed me to shoot, but I
Okay.
never was a full time journalist. Um, I think sometimes they didn't want me to touch a camera down there, but they allowed me
Mm.
to. It was different, you know. It was different, and I think one of the things that pushed me to come out to Chicago, I had did work for them, shooting sometimes and get it. So I just said, it's time for me to really move on. But again, I'm grateful for the opportunities they did give me. So when I came up to Chicago to work at COTV, there were a couple of African American photojournalists, more than I had ever seen before, not just at my place, but at the other stations around town. I was very shocked. And when I came up as a studio crew person doing cameras in studio. And then they promoted me to the transmission department where I would bring in news feeds. I would operate the live truck out in the field, with the reporters and photographers. And then I got promoted to uh, uh, photographer, photojournalist.
Hmm.
But I was very shocked that Chicago actually had a lot of African American photographers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So while you were doing the other jobs that you just kind of mentioned, there must have been something about your work or your productivity that saw them to, give you the opportunity to become a photographer eventually. Um, what do you think, if you can kind of think about it at this point, what do you think it was about your work ethic or your work aesthetic that got you to, getting those promotions or being promoted eventually to where you got?
One thing is I don't shy away from my responsibility or work. A lot of extra shifts, a lot of going the distance, a lot of keeping your attitude in check.
Mm-hmm.
People can be pretty gruff in this business, especially during that period. You know, uh, uh, Treating everybody with respect. You know, I don't care if you're the janitor at work or you're the general manager, the president of the company. You're gonna get the same amount of respect from me. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what helped me. And people saw, again, you're going to hear me talk about hunger a lot. I just kept having that hunger to go higher and higher. And they saw that, and I can say they gave me the opportunities when it came about.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Mhm.
So, talk to us a little bit about finally being a photographer and, how, at that time, how it just kind of chronicled something that you wanted to continue to do, what fascinated you, all that stuff.
Well, I can say when I finally became a photojournalist at COTV, it was amazing. You see opposite ends of the spectrum, the two worlds. You see the worst of the worst, but then you see things that just make you feel like, man, I'm in heaven.
Hmm.
I think the first time I went out to train in a live truck, the first story I did was a neighbor that killed one of his young neighbors that lived in the floor above them, and that hit me. That hit me hard. You know, but as time progressed, you just started, like I said, especially in a city like Chicago. Chicago has it all. You know, they have the crime, the politics, the entertainment. They have everything. So just that potpourri of stories and telling people stories and getting to meet people from different environments that would be able to on a regular basis. You know, um, uh, it brings a different kind of feeling when you're shooting. It empowers you when you're behind the camera. Hey, I want to tell that story. I want to tell that story right there. Sometimes it's bad, but I want to give that mother who lost her child a voice, or I want to give that immigrant who may have been cheated out of money a voice. I want to give that athlete who may have had a bad game and the other people are ripping him to shreds. He's human. I want to give him a voice. So it just allows me to go out there and just paint uh, a story for the public to see. Now, it's up to the public to determine how they're going to see it. They may be like, "Oh, I didn't see it that way," or whatever. I can't control that, but I want to go out there and tell a great story at the end of the
Hmm.
day.
And I can imagine that can be tough when it's the worst type of situation, and you still, have to do it. And one thing about the news, and I'm sure people don't really think about this, is that you have to go where the story is, whether it's
Yes.
good or bad. Um, Talk to us a little bit about, one of those first really terrible, bad stories that you had to report and you had to give a story to, and how you just kind of work through that. Because I can imagine, I mean, nobody wants to break bad news to people. And of course, being on scene to see, the things and having to report it because that's part of the job. There's still that bit of humanity in you that just makes it difficult.
I know one of the first stories I covered. There was a young girl. Her name was Cleopatra Jones. And if anybody knows the black exploitation era of the 70s, there was actually
Right.
a movie character named Cleopatra Jones. And um, her father just snapped one day. I think life has just gotten in the way. People talked about how he's a great father, and he killed her and then killed himself. And I could just remember being out by the family and just the eerie feeling you had. They didn't want us out there at first, but then they kind of backed up and opened up to us. And you just like, it made you say, how could a father do this to his child? But you also have somewhat a little compassion for him. Like, what happened to make him snap? What did he go through? So I mean, that was probably one of the first stories I did that just really hit me. People don't understand that as photojournalists, it's media in general. They think you come out there and cover a story. And I'm gonna give some credit to my counterparts, my Caucasian and Latino counterparts, my Asian counterparts. People just think, we go out there for a story. I've seen people at the end of a story break down and cry when they get in the car.
Wow.
No matter what, I've seen all colors break down and cry because it's just a lot to handle to have to, go report on a child being murdered or a child losing his only parent. Kids dying tragically in the fire. It hits you, and I think I want people to see the humanity in us as people.
Hmm.
They always think we're about a story, but listen, whether I go tragically cover murder or I go to a Chicago Bulls game and get a couple of players, the world we live in, that that's what happens.
Hmm.
Mm.
Yeah. Have you ever experienced a story that was difficult to cover because of all of the different, um, I guess, things behind the story that kind of affect you as an African American?
I can tell you, I covered a story one time, and it hit me because it literally happened 2 blocks from where I grew up.
Mm.
And he was a young man. He just graduated from college, graduation day. Mom was making, family dinner for him and all that. And he was a rough neighborhood, but very intelligent kid. Um, Worked part time at a pharmacy. Um, was going to Rutgers, and if I'm correct, in New Jersey. Jazz musician. So mom was taking a little too long to make the food. So he's excited. He's walking with a friend. So he said, "We're gonna go grab some fries real quick and come back." He goes to the store, and a guy, clearly high on drugs, robs him. They give him everything.
Mm.
He still kills him on his graduation day.
Oh,
And here's
wow.
a kid doing everything right. And I just remember we went out to the neighborhood. We didn't expect to talk to the parents. Um, and this is the thing. It's not the stories where you get out into the neighborhood and people don't want to talk to you and they're mad at you. It's the ones where the parents invite you into the house and they want to talk to you.
Mm.
Sure enough, they
Mm.
wanted to talk to us. They told the neighbors, bring them in the house. And just to see how torn up their mother was, and he did everything right. He did nothing wrong. And lost his life. You know?
Mhm.
And that hit me for a while. I felt bad that
Yeah.
whole week.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I knew how it felt to grow up over here. And sadly, a lot of my friends didn't make it growing up. And
Mhm.
here's somebody who did everything right, and he's gone. You know,
Yeah, that would definitely hit home for sure.
if if I told you every tragic story, we wouldn't get off this podcast.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
I'm sure. So how do you all, and I'm speaking in general, but how do you all manage to cope through that, kind of like that up and down experience, something like that on a day-to-day basis? Because that's a lot to take in. People don't realize what you're seeing on TV. You all
Mm-hmm.
had to capture it and talk to the people
Yeah,
and get, the details with that, process it, do what you have to do to make it available, accessible for the people to see it on TV.
right.
But that still is going to be with you because the next day you might have to cover up something just as tragic the next day. Like, so how do you all keep yourselves, in line, coping with that
Right.
stuff?
I've done stories with like that's one story that was maybe 26 years ago, and it still sticks with me.
Mm-hmm.
You have some stories they just stick with you, and one way you cope, man, we never try to take it home. Number one, you never
Of
take it
course.
home. I can't speak for everyone. I can speak for me personally. Prayer, just taking a deep breath. Definitely gratitude, because especially when somebody loses a child, and no matter how mad you may be at your own kids, you're thankful that they're still here. You know, um, just a feeling of Lord, thank you,
Mm-hmm.
for keeping me. It could have been me, you know. Um, that's pretty much it. Talk to somebody if
Mm-hmm.
you're feeling down, you know. It's even times I've had to take a sick day and just say I need a mental health day. I'm saying stay
Yeah.
home. So that happens a lot. That happens a lot.
Yeah. And that's needed, to be able to do that, to clear yourself so you can work productively and keep at it. Um, I'm imagining that, you all really have the capacity to take on stuff just like someone in law enforcement. I mean, I wouldn't say to that degree because I mean you're not
Mhm.
in the action, but I mean you're there on the scene for those things that happen and occur, and you
Right,
know, you know, you're kind of engulfed in that space for a period of time to
right, right.
cover the stories. Um, wow. Thank you for sharing that because I don't think people truly, think about that. When they watch it comfortably at home on their TVs, they're not thinking about the people that's capturing the
Exactly.
information while it's
And
going
trust me,
live. Or
right. I can't speak for every media person. I can only speak for the people I've worked with in the past. And we are not those monsters and those vultures they think we are. We're family people. We've
hmm
all uh tragically. We understand. It's just that it's the nature of the beast that we have to go cover the story. But we understand. And our heart goes out to the families we cover.
hmm
Mhm.
hmm Absolutely. So, we talked about kind of that. I guess I got to that a little sooner than I wanted to, but I know that that's a hard part of the job. That's a challenge.
Right.
That
Right.
would be a challenge. What else would you say are some challenges that you kind of face on a day-to-day basis, especially in your atmosphere?
Um, See, this is where I differ, because they are challenges, but I don't see them as challenges. I just see them as everyday way of life. Sometimes it could be Chicago traffic preventing you from getting to the store. I mean, because think about it. When you're in the South
Yeah.
and you're on the highway, uh, how long does it take you to get 20 miles? You could probably get there in 10, 15 minutes. It could take you 2 hours to go 20. It has taken us 2 hours to go 20 miles in Chicago,
Wow.
depending on if it's bad weather or just traffic is just crazy. So that's one thing. We try to have a positive relationship with law enforcement, but every now and then you have that run in. Our relationship I'm looking more on, we have more positives than negatives. Um, and sometimes just a difficult subject that you're going to cover who may make it
Mhm.
hard for you to cover. But I've I've been in it so long, I don't even look at it as struggles anymore. It's just a way of life.
Mhm. And I'm also kind of imagining your love for what you do kind of
Mhm.
outweighs the
Outweigh.
challenges, so to speak.
Right, right.
So I mean, I feel like there are going to be a lot of these, but what are the things that you enjoy that you really love to get into when it comes to this work? Because you did mention that you love to tell the stories
Right.
and you love to kind of capture that. Um, but tell us a little bit about some other things that you really enjoy about this job.
This allowed this kid from the west side of Chicago to experience things I probably never would have. From going to Africa to going to Rome multiple times, going to Mexico multiple times, going to Belize, Canada, covering Super Bowls, World Series, NBA championships, Stanley Cup championships, national college championships. Is just opened my world, and meeting people, various people, entertainers, uh, uh, politicians. I mean, we used to sit around and talk to Barack Obama like we're doing right now. But
Wow.
before he really rose up,
Hmm.
was the most personable person. You know, just the most personable person. So I mean, you get to meet people like that on their way up, expanding my world. I'm telling you.
Well, I mean, I can imagine, having that experience, like talking to people before they become the person
Right,
that they become. That's
right.
got to be a cool thing. Well, you got to share something that you talked with President Obama about, because I know that was a
Just
surreal time.
just talking about Chicago Bulls. That's all. Just
Mm.
talking about the Bulls and what he think they should do, and And I remember I hadn't seen him in a while, so we went to D.C. to cover him. Um, we drove over to the University of Maryland, and um, he did a rally. And so my reporter, they let us come backstage to interview him. This is when he started to run for president the first time. And my reporter, we went back there. He saw me. He came and dapped me up. And my reporter said, this is, he said, Barack, this is my cameraman, Derrick. He looked at my reporter. He looked at my reporter like this. I know Derrick. Feel good, Uh,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
just talking about basketball and Springfield, I'm not going to say we had hour-long conversations, but he was a good person to talk to. And he was just friendly, just a friendly guy.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty cool. That's amazing. That's
Right.
that's that's pretty cool. Yeah, I can imagine, the people and the opportunities that have come,
Mm,
from just being in that space is definitely something that keeps you going each day.
right.
So you've been at it for a while. How long would you say you've worked in this field?
If I include college, I'd say 34 years.
34 years.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's quite a long time to be
Right.
invested in it.
Right.
Um, at this point in your career, would you say that a lot has changed as it relates
Oh,
to the culture
most
of the
definitely.
business, the diversity that maybe you didn't see at one point in time? Like, talk to us a little bit about the change that has occurred in the time period that you've been in it.
I can actually tell you, this might sound strange. I think, especially among black males, is less diversity. Uh,
Hmm.
I remember starting when I came back to Chicago. I saw a lot of African American cameramen. You still see it, but not as much. And also, you have to look at the fact that the business has changed. TV is still kind of like the go-to medium for broadcast,
Yeah.
but it is not the dominant medium like it was. You have social media now. You know, so that's taken over a lot. You know, so that has changed somewhat. Um, Entities like newspapers and radio and TV, they're got it smaller because so they have less staff. But some of that is how can I say it? Technology has changed the game. Whereas one person, I mean, it used to take three people to do my job. One guy to carry back in the day the pack that held the tape. The one guy carrying the camera and the sound guy. I'm all that one person, you know. So
Yeah.
technology has definitely changed. I mean, I could go live with a backpack, you know, with cell cards in it, as opposed to a live truck. Uh, uh, 15 years ago, I've literally done that in Mexico. I've literally done that in Rome, where I've went live with a backpack. You know, so
Wow.
technology is definitely different. We used to edit tape to tape. Now you
Hmm.
do it on your laptop, Premiere Pro. You send a file back to the station. To shoot on tape at one time. There are literally people getting into the business now that will never know what it feels like to shoot on a tape. You know,
Right.
yeah. So
Hmm.
technology has changed the business, but it's still a great business to work in, and I think it's a need for uh, African American men, especially, to come on board. You know, producing wise, it's definitely a need.
So, why do you think it is the way that it is without African American men being in that field? Is it a matter of them not knowing or not having being
Ex-
exposed to it?
Exposure is one. Two, I think for the younger generation, it's just not sexy anymore. You know,
Mm.
and that could be it. Everything on their phone, everything on their iPad. So I remember one time I did a career day on the South Side. And so they had the children sit down, and we were all stationed at our booths. I had my laptop, my camera set up. I just knew the kids were going to run over there to me. So it's another guy next to me. He's a local music producer. Well, those
Okay.
kids came and they made a beeline straight to the music producer. I was like,
Yeah.
kids, really? I mean, like, I would have I would have ran over there
Yeah.
when I was
You.
younger.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. You came prepared, and they just.
uh, it's just a different time now. I mean, people still respect the business, but people consume news another way. That's just the way it is, you know.
Yeah. That's
Yeah, I
true.
mean, and the good thing is we have a heavy presence on social media too, though. So that helps, you know. You just got to find other ways to market yourself.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, I would imagine that, the individuals that you have the opportunity to just kind of show them the ropes and mentor, you're doing your part with that, especially with your experience and being in
Yeah,
for
yeah,
almost 35 years at this point, almost 40, if we
right,
look at it.
right.
Um, how is it to mentor, the ones that are coming up and to, show them the way? Because, that was you at one point, but how does that feel to be able to do that and to pass on that
I
experience and knowledge?
I love it because I really didn't have that coming up. I really didn't. I had my professors at school, but even when I came to Chicago, I didn't have that. It was a different mindset. And later down the road, I really became great friends with a lot of those older photographers. But it wasn't like, hey, let me take you by the hand and show you the ropes. You know,
Right,
you
right.
know. And I always try to talk to the younger generation, just not about the technicality of the business, how to shoot, how to edit, how to light, but just the politics of the business and what to watch out for.
Hmm.
You know, don't let anybody opinion of you bring you down. If I would listen to people, man, we wouldn't be on this call right now. If I would listen to
Mm.
everything people said, you know, like I told you in Tyler at one time, They didn't want me to touch a camera, you know, but here I am,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I'm glad you picked it up. I'm glad you picked the camera up because look where it took you. It took
Yes,
you to so many
yes.
amazing places. You met some amazing people,
Oh yes,
and it
oh yes.
really cemented a trajectory in your field. And I'm sure you probably didn't look at yourself in this way, but I mean, you were person that was breaking barriers. You were one of the ones who can say that you have matriculated in this field when
Right.
technology was at its lowest, simplest
Yeah.
form, the analog ways. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Right.
You were able to transform from that and evolve into where technology is now. So
Right.
that in
Right.
itself is an amazing thing. What's something that you would share with individuals, especially black men or black people in general who are interested in this field, maybe not even thought about it, but ones that are interested in it. What type of advice would you give them today?
You are in a much better position than I ever was. Technology has
Mm,
changed the game where knowledge is just out there for you. YouTube is your best friend when you want to learn something, gain knowledge on YouTube. Take that time. And I was told by an older guy, Derrick, if you could do no more than 15 minutes a day, learn something
mm,
in the field, in our field. And sure
yeah.
enough, there were days when I was rushing up and crunching. I felt like I didn't have time. And then, okay, let me listen to Murphy was the name of the gentleman. Let me go by what Murphy said. Let me sit down and get on the computer for a minute. Sure enough, I put on a tutorial. Man, I didn't know I could do that in Premiere Pro. I didn't know I could do that. 15, think about it, 15 minutes a day, 365 days a year. Oh man. So
Hmm.
well, people to the younger generation, people cannot keep knowledge from you like they did from me. It was things people did not want to show me, and I had to take it upon myself to learn. You all,
Right.
the internet is your classroom. Whatever you want to learn, you can do it, and just stick with
Absolutely.
it. If you have in your heart that you want to do this, pray to God to give you strength, determination, guide your steps, and just go for it. And
I think that's great advice.
keep a positive attitude.
That's
Yeah,
That's excellent advice. Every bit of that is great advice. I think that's transferable advice for even individuals who aren't going into that field. I think all that
exactly,
is great to keep
exactly,
in mind for sure.
exactly. Exactly.
One last question for you. What is
Mm-hmm.
one word that affirms who you are?
Mm. One word: determined.
Mm,
Determined. And I'm saying this to the younger generation out there. I'm 54 years old. I feel great. God's given me a wonderful fiance that keeps me, young, with staying on me with exercising and eating right and all that. And I'm 54 years old, but I think I got a lot of life in this business. And I thank God. I'm you gonna hear from me. I'm gonna go move on to that next level. You
well,
know,
that's excellent.
thank
That's
you,
excellent. I'm excited to see what that next level is going to
thank
look
you,
like
brother.
for you. I know it's coming. I know
Thank
it's
you,
coming.
thank you,
Brother Derrick Robinson, thank you so very
thank
much
you,
for sharing some nuggets with our
thank
platform
you.
today. I know a lot of people are really inspired by what you've shared, with your journey and your experience. So thank you so very much for taking some time and just sharing that with us tonight.
You are welcome.
If
And
I
can I
really
say one
appreciate it.
thing? And if it's
Go ahead.
any young person that wants to, talk to me, I give my you can give them my email. I give the email. My email
If
is
you would just go ahead and share that right now because I was going to ask if people wanted to connect with you, how could they do it? So go ahead.
right. My email is drob444 at yahoo.com. So that's D as in David, R as in Robert, OB444 at yahoo.com. And any advice
Excellent.
you need, or you just, questions about the business, hit me up.
Mhm. Please reach out to him
Please.
because I know that you'll be able to really give them some good advice and point them on the right trajectory, which is always a great thing.
Yeah.
Uh, what's something that you're grateful for today?
life, because you know what? No matter how you feel, no matter what you've done in the past, God woke you up and gave you life. Is hey, He's giving you another chance. You know, it's not over till it's over. So I'm grateful
Man,
for life. You know, I'm
yeah,
thankful that he's keeping me going. I say life and family. My mom, 81 years old, still with me. You know, kids are doing good. You know, just grateful.
hmm that's excellent. If there's something I would say today, I would say just growth.
Yeah,
I'm grateful for growth because to see our lives in one place and then to have it be someplace completely different, and then you didn't even know you were here until you look back and just like, oh wow, I've grown. So,
and that's
uh,
what. And wherever you are now, just know you can move forward and go. It's the mindset. It's the
yep,
mindset. And we're
it
not
definitely
talking
is.
much. Yeah, yeah. Wherever your mind can see, you can achieve it. So
That's right. That
yeah,
is so very true.
yeah.
Well, Brother Robinson, thanks again for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
And thank you all for staying and listening to Brother Robinson's story and his journey. He's been breaking barriers, and I want to inspire you to keep that same mindset. You can do the very same thing. So I hope that you all are going to be watching us again next week. We're going to have another great topic, another guest. Hope you all have a great evening. Have a great weekend.